Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's been some time since I last recorded, and I've definitely done a little bit of work on the car, and won't run you through it, what I've done so far, but a little bit of progress has been made because we're getting close to the paint stage, which should probably be next month. So we're in November, early November now, so looking to get it painted by December, which we'll touch on a bit later. So we'll run through the car first. I'll show you the crash bar here with the intercooler mostly mounted. I've just made some tabs underneath. Not sure if you can see. Yeah, just under there to hold the bottom of the intercooler. I'm waiting for a top plate that will get bolted here and will come up and around and get bolted to the other side, which is getting laser cut at the moment, as well as another few pieces, and on the back of that actually, which will hold the oil cooler. Now in the engine bay, I don't think you've seen the car with the engine in it, but there she is, sitting nice and tight in there around the belly housing and up against the firewall, but it's a pretty good fit. I've got plenty of room for the intake. I have mounted some of the aftermarket bits like the brake booster, which you've seen, or the brake master cylinder, and then up here I've cut out some of the I don't know what you'd call this. There's a plastic garnish that sits on top of this, but I've made room for the clutch reservoir. Now, I'm not running the standard clutch reservoir. I've actually purchased this Siki clutch reservoir, which actually sinks into the firewall quite a bit, and that will allow me to run the exhaust a little bit easier back behind the manifold and down. So it does come out a little bit, but it's much shorter than the factory one that is sitting there. But I also had to swap it out for a bigger slave cylinder. It's a 3/4, but it still uses the factory mounting points, and also the factory pedal box assembly, which I really like, so I didn't have to modify too many things around that. As you can see, it's pretty tight up against that firewall, but there's an expression for how much room is behind there, which I can't really say, but there's enough. Moving on to this side, I've mounted the fuel reg up here, which I've used an existing hole, but I'll probably drill a hole and put a nut-sert in here, just to have both. I mean, it is pretty secured where it is, but I'd rather have two holes there. At the back there, I think you already saw, but that's the bulkhead connection for the water inlet and outlet, which runs up the front to these Rad Industry components, which are really nice. And then up here I've also mounted the Vibrant catch can, which is a pretty nice unit. A fair few of the parts I've ordered for the car have actually come from the States, and surprisingly enough they come here, they get to my doorstep quicker than ordering something out of Australia, which I can kind of understand, but it's pretty amazing. But it's a 2-port vented catch can with a drain plug down the bottom. And what I like about it also is it's got a dipstick here, which you can check the level, so if you know you have to drain it or not, it's pretty handy. So that's mounted. Other than that, I got the bonnet on and the bonnet pins, which I think you guys have seen. But working my way into the interior, I've got the fire extinguisher mounted, and I've started working on the handbrake mount and the gear selector. So I've made a housing around the gear shifter that has this fire rated shift boot on it, and it is raised a little bit, so I've allowed enough room for the gearbox, top of the gearbox selector, to have room. and obviously the handbrake mount. So I've still got to weld in under here and along the side, but most of it's welded in. So today's main job is going to be pull the engine and gearbox out, so I've got room inside the tunnel. Even here I've just got to hit the tunnel out a little bit along this edge here to make sure that is touching, then I can weld it. And then also go in from the inside of the tunnel and just clean up the inner edge around the gearbox. Oops. Other than that, the back has pretty much stayed the same. And actually I've mounted the rear window there with the panel washers, and what I've also done is mounted the boot latches. I've made a little bracket with these spring-loaded clips. I'm not sure what exactly they're called, but I've mounted them on both sides. So I'm pretty happy with most of the fab work at the back here. There's just a couple of holes I need to patch up, and then lastly, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to weld these tubes here, and then what I'm going to do is have tabs running off the side here and actually run a panel, like an aluminium panel here, to create off a sectioned area for where the air will run in, which will be in the middle here. So I have these tubes on both sides, so one here and then one over here, and then, as I said, have an aluminium panel that runs down in here, and it creates a ducted off area just for the radiator, so there's not a lot of air getting thrown around in the back here. So other than that, I've also finished with the door frames. Window frames, these carbon window frames. So what I've had to do here is mount these quick release latches, which once it's all assembled on the car, I can give you a better idea of what they actually do. So on the door panel, you actually mount these washers that you then slide this latch onto. So I've got 4 of them on the door, so if I have to take it off, well, it's pretty easy to take off, but it's rather than having it fixed onto the door, if it's getting some warm weather, and have the windows open or windows off and get some air in the car, because again, it can get pretty warm. So they're done. The doors have been cut and modified, ready for them. So yeah, I did also get the front bar on, which is all mounted up to that bash bar. So pretty much ready to get the engine out. Got to finish a fair bit of fab work off in the engine bay, mainly that clutch master cylinder, and then filling up holes again, which I'm getting some pieces laser cut to fill up that hole in there. Get in there, yeah, so fill up those bigger holes, and that way, yeah, we can send it off to paint. And then lastly, I've just got to weld these seatbelt bolt holes on the inside of the tunnel on both sides, because the outside's already got a factory hole there that we can screw in an eyelet bolt to secure one of the seat belts on this side, but then we also need one for the other side. So in terms of the interior, it's pretty much done. Actually, the last thing that we'll need is a battery, which I'm waiting on, so I'll have to make a mount which will sit over in where behind the passenger seat, where you see that wire coming out. But then yeah, she's pretty much ready for paint, so I've organised that, hoping to get it there in the next couple of weeks. But we'll get cracking on pulling the engine out, rest of the fabrication work done, to make it all happen. So we'll get straight into it.
But you're so right, we're losing track of time, buying things online and it's not like we need them. We don't need them. So can we just slow down? The only thing.
Alright, so we have the engine out now. Pretty straightforward. Now what I'm going to do is pull the panels off, because I'm going to be doing some cutting and grinding, so I don't want to damage the panels at all. We'll get the bonnet off, put it aside for now, but obviously when I need to get it painted, I need to hang everything back on, so we'll get it all off, get the headlights off so they don't get damaged either. That way at least the front end can start be worked on in terms of welding up and fabricating and closing some of the holes, so we'll do that now. So I've pulled all the panels off the car, pulled the door off as well, so I'm going to start working on the front here. These are 3 holes on either side that I'm definitely going to be plugging up. Being 1, 2, 3, so I've just marked them so I can grind the paint off, and as soon as I get some laser cut circles here I can weld them straight away. So trying to get most things done. I'll definitely do that clutch reservoir, and same thing on this side. At a later stage I'll pull this rear panel off, and then I will I think there's a couple more holes I need to cover up there, but some of the smaller holes on the interior, just like Toyota have done, I'm probably just going to get these vinyl stickers to cover some of the holes and paint over them, just to stop smoke entering the cabin. So I'll get majority of the bigger holes done, and then that way at least there's only the small ones to cover with stickers, which can be done. So we'll do that now. Alright, so I've got the car up in the air now. I've just cleaned up some of the areas and cut off a few tabs that I won't be using. Up the top here where I've made some room for the dampener as well as the alternator bracket. So I've just cut this 2-piece clip off. Now going under the car, talking about the fabrication that needs to be finished is the engine mounts, the gearbox mounts. So I've bolted up the sides there, but I just need to finish the top up there, and then that one up the top there. So once that's done, then I can come in from underneath, and I actually want to trim some of this edge off from where the gearbox top of the tunnel is, and some of this edge I'll probably just be able to grind it, and then just clean up this mount here. So probably cut a little bit out of that, probably won't take it all the way out completely, but at least I can take that out and just clean up some of the areas that I've cut. So I've made this part removable, just to give me access to the top of the selector housing if there are any issues down the track, but otherwise the other part is welded in. Now what I hadn't shown you guys is the power steering pump. I've used the factory, power steering pump comes out of a Toyota Astra, and I've used the factory mount but modified it and actually welded it into these cups. So these are actually, I'm pretty sure they leave enough room for the headers on the FA20 motor to come back out this way, so curl down off the engine, back out around the front, and then I think it actually runs over, or could run underneath, runs over or underneath of the cross member on its way out. So I've utilised that space under there. There's plenty of room for the intake to go on top, and I can still get the cap off with room to fill it up and even take this out. So if I ever had to change it, it's very accessible. So pretty happy with that. It's out of the interior of the car, which it was on the last car, so I'm happy with that. So once I've done that, then I'll head on to the inside and do the trans tunnel and continue to weld the handbrake mount on. So it's not too exciting stuff, but it's exciting for me because the car's heading off to paint pretty soon, so I'm very excited about that, especially getting it painted before Christmas, around busy time. So we'll get it painted, then hopefully assembled. Then I'm at the moment looking for someone to do the wiring on the car, which I'll get a new loom front to back rather than pulling it out of the old car. I did have a voltage spike every now and then, which I think could be partly related to the loom when I transitioned from the V8 to the 2J. So I don't want to touch any of that, but I'll look into that for when I put another motor back into it and start fresh on this. So I'm hoping I can get it wired up end of January, and then hopefully have it running around that same time, probably early Feb, and then hopefully get out to a skid pan day so I can test the car, shake it down, and then hopefully get into some comp, whether it be in Victoria or Sydney, if we can even go there, depending what happens with all these restrictions. So we'll see what happens, but I'm going to keep chipping away at it. Nothing too exciting. I'll show you the end product and show you a bit of a a slow-mo, which you probably guys have already seen enough of, but we'll get into it now anyway.
And I feel that you mean it. You mean it. But you're so
Alright, so with the underneath of the car done, moving up to the top here on the gearbox mount. So I've removed the shifter boot and the handbrake. So I was underneath and I've tapped out the back of this, so now this tunnel touches this bit of plate there. So with a slight, very slight gap under here. So I'm going to weld along here as much as I can, and then I'll just tap this area in. So that's what the gear mount looks like from the top. So just got to finish some welding off around the back here, around the side here. Let's get that clear, yeah, around the side here. And then we'll clean that up. And then that's done. And then I just really need to make the gearbox mount, as I said earlier, which I'm waiting for some bits and pieces to come. A battery, actually, I'm just waiting for a battery to come. Once the battery's here, I can make the mount. I've printed out a paper template of what I need to do with it, so I'll probably get into that tomorrow night. Other than that, I'll go through, weld the handbrake up, the handbrake mount up, finish the gearbox or shifter boot mount up, and then we'll come back tomorrow night, finish the battery mount, and then hopefully I can get those laser cut pieces that I've been waiting for, because then once most of the holes are filled up, as I said, we're pretty much ready for paint. So I can completely disassemble everything, take the front cross member out, all the suspension, the wise fab off, and then yeah, strip the interior and send it out for paint. So I can't wait. Yeah, pretty excited, especially that I hopefully going to get it painted before Christmas. So we'll wrap it up there for now. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
so